You're all I have left, Kate. And I don't want to lose you too.
Too late! You're too late!
These videos are not for children. If you are a children, then piss off.
Hey there, I'm Infuso, and I'm here once again to talk about Batwoman. This isn't the review that I promised.
That comes later!
But instead, a bit of an update on where the series will be going and my thoughts on it.
But first
and foremost, I want to address a couple things from my first video on Batwoman that a couple of you guys have mentioned. I knew when I made the Buffy comparison that I wasn't articulating myself properly. But like when you're in the editing process and you have to put out 5 videos a week, you let some things slide sometimes. And that's unfortunately one of them. What I was saying is that there's a way for a slender woman to go about beating up big men and still have people be like, oh yeah, no, I get that. That's believable. With Buffy, it was the powers. But Batwoman actually had a lot of training, and the show showed that. And I stand by that. She had a lot of training, and I think that it was reasonable that she'd be able to, dismantle so many people. Although, however, what I will say is that the show instead showed her to have brute strength, as opposed to showing her fighting style being more strategic and tactical. Had they shown that, I think a lot less people would have an issue. But I feel like effort is being put into the wrong areas of the creative department for the show. Do I want to see people get representation? Yes, absolutely. I think that everybody should be able to have a piece of media in which they can see themselves in a character. However, I want to see good representation. I was called a sexist dickhead by somebody who didn't even watch my video just because I was critiquing the Batwoman show. I want them to have good representation. The character's sexuality is important to the character, but it's not all there is to a character. People aren't just sexualities. I want them to be represented properly, and I want them to be seen as people rather than just sexuality with arms and legs, if that makes sense to anybody. And I think the first season of Batwoman didn't really get that right. They didn't make Kate Kane a character, they focused entirely on her sexuality only. And there's so much more to the Kate Kane in the comics. She's not just 1 or 2 traits. There's a full, fleshed out human character there that the show completely missed out on. As a matter of fact, I don't think I really got the opportunity to go over this in my actual Batwoman video, so let me express it here. Kate Kane is a terrible choice to take over the mantle of Batperson. You see, Batwoman in the comics exists as her own thing. She's entirely separate from Bruce. As a matter of fact, her fighting style and the way that she conducted herself was so different than Bruce, the two would argue from time to time on how to properly be a crime fighter. For example, I bet a lot of you guys who've only seen Kate Kane in the show didn't know that she liked to use guns. A whole lot. Which is obviously the polar opposite of Batman. I really wish that Batwoman from the get-go would have tried to actually be Batwoman rather than be Batman with boobs. Because I think that honestly, that's what was setting the character back so much. I think people care far less about female Batman than they would about actual Batwoman. I'm not going to get too much into detail over that. I already talked about that in my first video. I just realized I didn't get to bring that last part up, so there is that. As I stated before in my previous Batwoman video, and also many others who have made Batwoman videos have probably already informed you, the series lead Ruby Rose, who played Batwoman, will be leaving the show. Due to, due to a lot of issues. Including, but not limited to, practically paralyzing her. Yeah, that's a valid reason. That's a valid reason to leave. But as they say in the entertainment biz, the show must go on. Despite many wishing it wouldn't. So with the Ruby Rose gone, instead of going my face change route that I alluded to in the last video, I'm telling you, it's right there, you guys can make this work, you're choosing not to. Instead of doing that, they're just doing away with the character altogether, in favor of a brand new creation. A brand new series lead, and also new character to any continuity, named Ryan Wilder will be entering Gotham City. And apparently, she lives in a van down by the river! The casting call for the role looks pretty horrendous. Here's what we know thus far. Apparently, this new character is looking to take over the role of Batwoman, as the real Batwoman goes missing. She's driven by vengeance, wanting to kill the man who killed her mother. That man being Scarecrow. Who, correct me if I'm wrong here, and I very well could be, but I'm pretty sure he's never previously been seen in this universe whatsoever. Possibly not even mentioned. This is the first time ever. The description of the character tells us the character's past of being a drug runner, but doesn't really tell us too much of who she is as a character. It's actually one of the worst casting calls I could remember ever reading. I feel bad for any actress going in with this description, or lack thereof. This description is telling them jack shit about what the showrunners want them to portray. On top of that, I think it's a real slap in the face that the actual description states that they're looking for the complete opposite of Kate Kane. So for all the people who were defending the show prior, and defending Ruby Rose in the show, and how she was the best part of the show, guess what? Those in charge are now looking for the complete opposite of that. A big thing that they emphasized is that Kate isn't going to be dying off. They're not killing the original Batwoman. Kate Kane is not dead. She's just going to go missing. And this is mainly because they want to avoid the trope of lesbians dying in cinema. But here's my thing. Like, people die. Everybody dies. I'm sorry, spoiler alert here, but everybody dies. And if we're looking at this creative universe as an actual universe, yeah, everybody in it is going to be dead at some point in time. Well, it doesn't matter if you like girls, you like boys, you like unmentionables, you're going to go. It's going to be over. It's going to die. You're going to die. I don't know, I just never really understood that trope. Like I understood the trope that, like, oh, you know, the black guy's always got to die first in horror movies. Yeah, that's an overused trope, but like, people saying like, oh man, I hate when they make lesbians die. Everybody dies! I don't get that. I do not understand that. It's not like if you're part of the LGBTQ community, all of a sudden you're immortal. That's just not how it works. Keeping Kate alive and MIA, at least to me, is a big mistake.
Big mistake. Big. Huge.
First things first, Bruce is already missing. Now we're just gonna make his cousin up in Houdini too? Also with little to no explanation? Again? We just did this. We're still doing this. We're in the process of this being done, and you're doing it again. I think it's more than likely, given what's happened to Ruby Rose, and given the fact that she's been very vague about what led to her leaving the show, but promising that eventually she'll tell all, I smell a book deal. Or at the very least, a very nice paycheck following an interview. As I was saying, it's more than likely that she's never coming back to the show. And you know what? I could very well be wrong. That's a possibility. Look, there's such a thing as human error, and trust me, I should know about it because there have been a lot of errors in my life. Most of them just have names. But I think it's more than likely she will not be returning to the series at any point in time. So leaving the character missing is leaving a giant loose end in your show, and a question that will hang over your whole continuity's head. Look, I'm not going to say kill Kate Kane, but I really think by having her exist elsewhere is just going to overshadow everything this new Batwoman ever does. In a similar fashion to how Bruce Wayne being missing and not dead kind of hung over the first season of Batwoman, this will play out the same way. Now everybody who's watching this in the back of their mind is like, oh, well, you know, Kate's gone and Bruce is gone, but they're out there still somewhere. There's still some hope.
There is no hope.
It really overshadows everything else that's going to be going on in the series. Throughout the first season, a lot of people often wondered, where's Bruce? Are we going to be seeing him? Is he going to show up? Is Batman ever going to appear? We're going to have that same problem now with Batwoman.
He's not coming. Shut it down.
And here's the thing that's really been bothering me about this, and I don't know how many of you guys could relate, but bringing in another character to take over this mantle is very, very anticlimactic. Especially with all this build-up we've had for the Batwoman character in the first season and the crossover events. So much for that World's Finest that you guys were clearly working on. All those Batwoman Supergirl scenes, they mean nothing now. If you would have recasted the character, you know, it still would have had some merit to it. You still would have been building up to something. I'm telling you guys, you already have the answer to your problem. Make them rearrange her face, poof, recast her. It fits your Hush narrative. It works. Aside from me disagreeing that switching leads at a time like this may be a chaotic shift that could very well have fans lose whatever investment they still had in the show, the idea that they'd replace her with an original creation, rather than borrow from the extended lore of solid female characters DC has to offer, is mind-boggling. There are so many characters that hardly ever get any love or recognition outside of their comic books. And if I was the one in charge, which I don't know how I'd land such a job, but hey, these bozos did, so clearly it's not impossible. I'd pick a character from the already long line of established female characters from Batman comics. Here's just a few that I think could work. These are just off the top of my head. I'm just gonna go with it. Huntress. Huntress is an anti-hero of sorts. And almost any incarnation of her, from Helena Bertinelli to Helena Wayne, is a take-no-bullshit ass-kicker. If they went the Helena Wayne route, she has a family tied to the suit and the Bat family, just like Kate Kane. Whereas if it's Helena Bertinelli, she's trained practically her whole life how to beat the holy hell out of those who oppose her. And not to mention, the girl's good with a crossbow. The original Batgirl is always a good choice, Barbara Gordon. She's highly educated in more ways than one. A woman who could kick your ass and hack your computer in an hour's time. If we're going based on the character from the comics or the animated series, or almost any canon with this character, she can fit the suit properly and you won't even have to get her a red wig. In terms of name recognition, she's quite possibly the most known female Batman character outside of Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. So I think a lot of people would be on board with this. Renee Montoya. She's a police officer who doesn't back down from anyone. She's a lesbian character, which seems to be big for the series showrunners, so there's that. And by the way, I know somebody in the comments is gonna say something, but I'm literally going by the fact that they've gone out of their way to say that they want an LGBTQ actress to play the role. So clearly that is a credential for them. And not to mention, this wouldn't be the first time that this character, Renee Montoya, has donned a hero's costume, as she actually became the Question in the comic books for a time being. There's even a connection between Batwoman and Renee, as they've previously dated. Not to mention Brooklyn Nine-Nine actress Stephanie Beatriz, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, I probably am, has shown interest in joining the show. And she's practically a perfect fit for the character. I mean, she's got the right attitude, she's got acting chops, she's had plenty of experience in acting as a police officer before, she's the right ethnicity, she's part of the LGBTQ community. It's all right there for you. Why am I doing your job? I don't get paid enough to do your job. I don't even get paid enough to do my job. And my job is just bitching on the internet about stuff, but adding visuals to the shit that I'm spewing. How has this not entered the minds of those in charge before? You are handed so many opportunities. You have so many opportunities and tools to utilize to make this show a better show, and you're just like, nah, man, we don't need any of that shit. What is that? Get that out of here. We got this. I don't need your help. I know what I'm doing. You clearly do not. And last but not least, I cannot stress this one enough. Cassandra Kane. Cassandra Kane, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated characters in all of comic books. I've even talked in the past that I think that she would be a good replacement for Batman. You know, should Bruce ever age out or kick the bat bucket. And I stand by that opinion, still to this day. Now, if your only exposure to the character was the Birds of Prey movie,
you have been cheated and lied to!
No offense to the young actress in the movie, who did a really great job for what she was given. Especially for a child actor. It's a tough thing. Most of them suck. She didn't. She was very good. And probably one of the most entertaining aspects of that movie. But that character was Cassandra Kane in name only. Pretty much that incarnation of the character was an original creation. Just tacked on with the name of a character from the source material. Allow me to tell you a little bit about the actual character of Cassandra Kane, and why I think she's a great fit for the series, and why I think that we should be seeing a lot more of her in a lot more things. Her parents are Lady Shiva and David Kane, two well-known League of Assassins affiliates, meaning that she was pretty much trained since birth by Ra's al Ghul and his minions. She's an expert combat fighter. She was conditioned following conception to be the world's greatest assassin. So she'd already be trained, and trained a hell of a lot better than Batwoman. She's highly intelligent. Oh, and hey, if we're trying to get diversity points here, if that's really so important for the show, and I can respect it if it is, get this. She's Asian, she's illiterate, she's mute, oh, and she's asexual. So she checks every box you're looking to check. All of those groups of people don't have a whole lot of representation in films or TV. Any of these characters are more acceptable to take over the Batwoman mantle. Any one of them. There's no need to create a new one with seemingly no connection to any of the show's already established characters. That just seems really dumb. And unnecessary. And dumb. There's a whole pool of people to choose from, so why are you making a brand new one in your creative sink? Yeah, I know. You're impressed. I'm a deep thinker. It's looking like Season 2 is more than likely going to be worse than Season 1. That's my prediction, at least. But this one time, I wouldn't mind being wrong. You see, a lot of people that came to my comment section told me that I don't know what I'm talking about and I just want to hate the show. And that's not true at all. I don't ever want to dislike anything Bat-related. Hell, I have a whole section dedicated to it on my Discord. I have 2 shelves full of Batman movies. I couldn't even tell you how many Batman comics I have or how many Bat-related things are in my room. It's an excessive amount. The point is I don't want to dislike anything that has to do with one of my favorite characters in all of fiction. I want it to be better. And that's why I'm making these videos. Well, that and, you know, I would like to live and have money, so that's also important to me. I'm really hoping Batwoman improves in the next season and in future seasons, but at this point in time, and again, I'm just an outsider looking in, I'm only going based on what I know, it's not looking like that's going to be the case. Hope I'm wrong.
I'm the Clown Prince of Crime, and that was the Prince of Personality, the Infuso, or so he says. So if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole and you too want to become a V-tard, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow the man on Twitter, because it's not stalking if it's on the internet after all. Join the fun by joining the Discord. If for some strange reason you want to show support, and I don't know why you would, and if you have $1 to spare, head over to the SIJW's Patreon, where you can request videos, get exclusive content, and early access to scheduled videos. Or head to his PayPal, where you can buy the shirts. Oh, aren't those lovely? And just remember, if you're not tuning in, you're missing out. Yeah.